Very distressing for you, very distressing for us to watch that. But what we're doing is we're looking at the after effect. We're not looking at the panic attack itself. And I just wanted to say that nearly 60% of mothers have experienced something similar to what Sophie went through at some stage. Besides Sophie is the psychologist Emma Kenny to talk through, first of all, Emma, what is a panic attack?
Well, there's panic attacks and anxiety attacks, which physically feel the same, but panic attacks happen completely out of the blue. Could be walking down the street. Anxiety attacks tend to happen because of a trigger. So, for example, getting the kids to bed and feeling really overwhelmed. It feels physical, entirely physical. You can feel like you're suffocating, having a heart attack. You can feel literally symptoms that make you consider that you might die. But actually, we know that they're caused by psychological effect.
Do you know, Sophie, that you're not going to die? Do you know that?
I know that I'm not going to die physically, but in points like that, mentally, I did feel like taking my own life. So that's why I think it's so important for me to show people that, you know, on the surface, at the time I was presenting on TV, I ran businesses, did my own blog and vlog, worked from home when I could. But actually, deep down in private, I was going through a really difficult time.
And this is the very disturbing thing for us to see. I only learned this morning, and I don't suppose I'm just talking to the gallery here, we have this footage, but Sophie reminded me that she took part in Britain's Got Talent before, and we interviewed her on this very show as a belly dancer, which I remember you full of joy and life and belliness. It was all there for you. I mean, life seemed so good, and therefore it's doubly distressing to see you the way you are.
And the thing is, even during that interview, I was suffering really badly with anorexia. And so on the surface, and now I'm fairly stable, but I know I'm delicate.
Yeah.
But that's something that I've always had to cope with. So my message is that things can get that bad, and people aren't alone in that. But you can still have a fulfilling life. Nothing is ever worth taking your own life. I was so close, and I have made attempts in the past, but I'm so glad to be here. And it's such an honour to be on this sofa and to be talking to other mums. And I've had so many messages, and it's amazing how many people go through this alone.
Well, we said it's upsetting for you to watch it. It's very distressing for us to watch it. And for me particularly, when I could hear your children in the background and you saying, I've got to do bath time, I'm going to have to tell them I'm not very well, because children are very perceptive, aren't they? They can see if you've been crying. And that really struck a nerve with me, because, you know, when you're at home and the kids are playing up and you know bath time's coming, when you're feeling like you obviously were, that must be very hard to get yourself back for those children.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time people will say when I've felt suicidal, well, look, you've got the kids, you've got a home, you've got a husband, you've got a job. Why could you take your own life? That's just selfish. But when you're suffering with a mental illness, you're like trapped in this glass box, and it's almost worse that you can see your beautiful kids, you can see your beautiful life, and you just can't reach it.
How did you have the idea to film them, and why did you want to make it public? And do you watch them, and does that help you?
Yeah, so I started vlogging when I was working as a journalist, because I struggled to work in a newsroom because I found it quite triggering. So I started to vlog, and the first time I vlogged it was during a psychotic episode. I didn't know what was going on. I was suffering from paranoia. I was thinking somebody was shooting me and they weren't. And so I just started to document it, because what it made me see is that whilst I was suicidal, that there was a way out. And that even though when I feel my absolute lowest, I can look back and see, well, I've been there before and I've got through it.
Yeah.
And my favourite saying is that every wave will pass. So when you're feeling really bad, that it's got to go at some point.
And what
You've got to
response have
carry
you
on.
had after posting these videos?
Well, I thought it would be largely negative, because people don't always understand, you know, self-shooting and footage. But actually, it's been the opposite. People have started to come out and say, oh, I finally realised that I've had a mental health problem, and there's so much pressure on mums to look like they've got it all.
But that's the thing, Emma, isn't it? I think so many mothers, I don't know why, because we talk about it on here all the time. You know, loads of people struggle, you're not alone. But there's something about parenthood, not just mums, but, you know, obviously we have a lot of young mothers who watch this show, often with their first babies, is that there's still this image that you should be perfect.
Yeah,
you should be able to cope and you should be able to run your life and still have a job and keep a wonderful house and be happy and look after a brand new baby. Why are women so reluctant
I think when you look at
they're struggling?
That Channel Mum survey kind of comes up with people saying, I think my kids are going to get taken off me. I think people will think I'm a bad parent because I'm expressing the fact that I'm unhappy. And I think that basically I'm a selfish human being because I have needs. And I think that women per se in our society struggle because we expect ourselves to be so many different things, and that provokes anxiety. So the biggest thing that we need to do is keep these kind of conversations going. What you just said there is really true. This Morning does do a hell of a lot around mental health and well-being, and it's fantastic. But it's still amazing how many people don't see those things and pick up on them, or even Google to talk about it. So getting the message out there and hammering home that actually being a mother does not give you a pass for positive mental health. Actually, often it compromises it.
But also means Sophie May is very distinct there, talking about her mental health.
Exactly.
With this. But a lot of people will have panic or anxiety attacks and they'll see them as physical. They won't see them...
That's right. You're absolutely right. So one of the distinctions that I think you're great at talking about is you've experienced quite complex mental health issues, including eating disorders and psychosis, which is a hugely debilitating situation to face. For some people, Eamonn, you're absolutely right. They will feel that they're coping in their life. They won't necessarily even recognise mental health as an issue. And then they'll find themselves melting down in a shopping centre or having a panic attack at work and thinking they're having a heart attack.
You had a panic attack, didn't you?
I've had a number of panic attacks, thank goodness, 27 years or so ago. Like you, I just thought I was going to die. But my coping strategy eventually was to realise I'm not going to die. But I would never have associated with a mental problem. I think looking back on it, it was a result of the sudden death of my father and not being able to say goodbye to him. And I think that then came on and I associated with being away with home with bad things and whatever. But I think a lot of people go through it. But what I would say to you is, I've come through that. It's never happened to me again in 27 years. It happened to me once on air, presenting for BBC television. And, you know, it doesn't get much worse than that and having to cover that up. Both times I was hospitalised with it. But yet it's never come back. I've dealt with it. It can go away. Can go away.
And I think it is giving that message of hope, that searching for the right support networks, because a lot of parents face barriers to support because you can't take your children to counselling per se. So whilst it's great there is support out there, a lot of it isn't family friendly. So that's why I really welcome this Channel Mum survey and group. They've got a great online forum because there's so many barriers to accessing support. I don't think it's just on us as the sufferer to speak out.
Well, the support is obviously needed, isn't it, Emma? It says Channel Mum's 85% of British mothers are suffering from some form of anxiety or mental health problems. Sophie May, thank you so much for talking so openly about it. I mean, the videos are very, very powerful. And thank you for raising awareness yet again.